You know there's nothing better than growing your own vegetables. So satisfying. Everybody used to in these mountains and these rural areas had a little garden out back, but not so much now, but they're still around. But not like they used to. Used to, every little vacant field, lot, either had cattle or livestock on it, or they had corn in it. Big old rows of corn. That's the way it was in these rural areas, and some places are still that way, but not like it used to be. And how did they preserve their gardens for the wintertime? A lot of them didn't have a penny to their name, but they preserved what they grow, and the whole family worked at it. Not just in these mountains, but all in these rural areas across America. So let's look at how they saved your garden for the wintertime. Now friends, back in these rural mountains, it's always been this way. They had big families. Some of them had 10, 12, or more kids. I'm telling you. And that's the truth. And they had a lot of mouths to feed. So they usually had a big garden out back, and the whole family worked it. If they wanted to eat, a lot of work to do. And they had big families too. They just, no other way around it to feed them. But nowadays, people don't have big families like they used to. They have little gardens like this, little garden boxes in their yard. But it's still a garden, no matter what the size. Now me and my wife, I don't have big gardens anymore like I used to when I was young with the family. Just little garden boxes like this I built. And you notice that it's more like a cage. It's about 5 foot by 10 foot. And it holds all the little vegetables for me and my wife. I don't can anymore, be honest with you. All my elders is gone. Nobody just don't can no more. And the reason I got this screen up here, you can see the little squirrel in here. I left the door open working on the plants one day. Wasn't gone long, and he's in here running around, trying to get out. Now, what in the world are you doing in there, little buddy? And I sure don't want to hurt these little animals. I just unlatch it here, go to the other side and let him out. And he's gone. But the one culprit that you got to watch for in these gardens is these groundhogs. Old Dirty Dan, you call him. He'll eat up everything you got. But this little box does my purpose so well for what I need. And it feels so good when the harvest comes. Getting some tomatoes and onions, cucumbers. Feels so good. And I just love to get down here in this little garden. It's not much. It's more than enough for me and my wife. The cucumbers, they've done run their course just about. But back in the old days, when you had big families and the communities wasn't grocery stores, no social programs, this was a big thing, having big gardens. Usually the whole community would share if they all worked in it, worked hard at it. And when the bounty come in, they all shared, whether it be the family, the whole neighborhood, and there was more to go around than anybody could eat. But they knowed they couldn't waste this food. 'cause they knowed Old Man Winter was just around the corner, and they'd wish they'd had this if they didn't save it. So they preserved as much of it as they possibly could. And how did they do it? They canned it. Vegetables. Meat was another process, but this is the vegetables out of the garden. And they canned everything that could be canned. It was hard work. Hard work, but they done it. When they harvested, they had to prep it, prepare it to be canned. A lot of processing to be done. Depends on what vegetable it was. But they know what they're doing. They've done it in many generations. Even the whole family'd sit down here. Here they're peeling apples. So they canned about everything they possibly could. And this paid off in them long, cold winter months. They never went hungry. And they could trade with it too. You can remember this. They still do this today. Britches. String up them cream beans and let them dry out. And they canned so many green beans. And tomatoes. Loved them canned. Nowadays, people just freezes them. They more or less rinse them off, blanch them a little bit, dry them out a little bit, and they freeze them. And that works. But I think canning is the best. If you want to preserve food for a long time, they don't get freezer burnt. And they still use these old ball jars. Here's some history on them. If you want to take the time to read it. Here's some of the markings on the old jars if you find them. The dates on them, when they made these labels on them. Nowadays they came with a cap and a screw down cap on them. But back then, they was the cap and the screw down was all the same. They was zinc. They was made as one. And this is what they used all the way up to the 50s. I know when I was a little boy, we already went to the 2-ring cap. But I find these metal detecting all the time around these old home places. And nowadays, everybody uses a pressure cooker. Well, I'm here to tell you. You can tell me if I'm wrong or not, but all my elders, the women I've talked to, they never had no pressure cooker. And they canned for many, many a years, no pressure cooker. An old canner they set their jars down in, and an old wash tub, whatever they was prepping in and cooking or blanching. It just depends on the vegetable you was canning, how you prepped it. And what they cook them on and can on? Old stoves like this. Old wood stove, coal stove, and 90 degrees outside in the late summer. And they kept a big old fire roaring in there to keep that water boiling and cooking with and canning. These women worked hard. This wasn't no easy job. This was a big task for a lot of canning when the gardens come in. And how did they do it? They prepped their food, whatever they was canning. There's different ways of prepping what you was canning, what vegetable. These are pears or peaches here, I'm sorry. And they would just clean their jars real good, get them in hot water about an inch or two in the bottom of the canner, and then they'd set their jars down in there, let them get good and hot, and then whenever they had their food prepared and everything, they would pour their food or vegetables down in there with a little water, let them get good and hot, put the cap seal on it, just set it down on it, and the ring, they would just barely put the ring on it, just barely start to snug it. And when they done that, they let it cook down some more, get really good and hot. Then they would take them out with a set of thongs or a tray, and they'd set them out on the table. Then they would tighten the ring down on them as they cooled down. And these rings, the caps that the rings go around, they kind of got a little raise in the cap, the seal cap on them. So when they cooled off, that cap would suck down. You can see it, just a little dent in it. And that would seal it. They'd make sure the rings is good and tight. Then they would let them cool down real good, and they'd put them in a cellar or a little dairy out back in the ground, a cool place to store them. Most of the time, they kept them in the basement, and they done a lot of canning, and this kept them up all during the winter months. So they didn't have a need to go to the store unless it was for trading or for some salt or baking soda or sugar, something that they just couldn't make that easy. That's the way it was. Now, men didn't do much of this kind of work, but the women did. Men were too busy out in the fields making a living. But anyway, that's the way it was in these mountains, and still is today in some places. They didn't have a need for nothing. So when old man winter came and that cold wind blowed, when they just can't get out, they didn't go hungry. So everybody knows old wintertime is just around the corner. They always prepared a season or two ahead. So I want to thank you for watching these little videos. This is just the way it is in these mountains and rural areas all across Appalachia and the country, not just these mountains. So I want to thank you for watching. God bless every one of you. Take care, and I'll see you next time.